And with that, I will call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, if you can go ahead and do a roll call, please.
Ms. Farrell. Here. Mrs. Frank. Here. Mr. Howard is absent. Mr. Engelke. Here. Mr. Smith. Here. Vice Mayor Bolt. Here. Mayor Pachota.
Here, and we'll stand for the pledge.
Any questions on the stormwater?
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think maybe this is the appropriate time to ask my questions about Flamingo Ditch and Golden Beach. I actually have a motion I'd like to make as a preface to the discussion. I move that we add a Flamingo Ditch, Golden Beach stormwater drainage project to the capital improvement plan this year, because the consultant's going to be coming out with final recommendations in June, and we will need to start addressing this critical public safety issue in the fiscal year 2026 budget. That would be my motion, Mayor.
Being that we're in a workshop, I'll yield to the attorney on rules and procedures.
Just a procedural point, we are in a workshop, so we can't have formal motions. You can make directions by consensus, but we can't have a motion, second, vote, that type of thing. We're in a workshop.
Okay. I mean, we're working toward consensus.
So we can treat that as a consensus discussion.
And I put it out there for conversation if that's the appropriate thing. I look at this, and there's $4.5 million to be spent over 5 years on 7 projects, and they're all important, but there is no mention of the Flamingo Ditch, and this is what I'd like to say. It's been pointed out by residents that the Flamingo Ditch Golden Beach project is crucial. It's clearly in alignment with our strategic goal number 4 to upgrade and maintain city infrastructure and facilities. The council made the good decision to hire the Coastal Protections engineering firm, and they're hard at work. Some of their early recommendations, such as hiring outside contractors, keep the outfall open, implementing regular maintenance schedules, they may not be capital improvement projects, but things that certainly need to be funded this year. And they do envision, though, some capital improvement projects for us, starting with the installation of backflow valves that they've already discussed would be for those pipes and outfalls to the Gulf. And what I believe is needed here is for the council to give a clear communication to the residents of Golden Beach, an assurance that we will be implementing any feasible fixes as quickly as humanly possible. We can start to do that by listing Flamingo Ditch in this capital improvements plan, with some uncertainty to exactly what form that's going to take. But if we need a budget figure, we had a previous recommendation on what might be done there. I know that that's not going to be the project, but it does give us some scope. And we need to finance this, whether it be from federal grants or the stormwater fund or the 1-cent sales tax, or however we need to fund it. But I'm hoping that the council today will give a clear direction that we want the Flamingo Ditch Golden Beach drainage situation addressed in the current capital improvements program and in the fiscal year 2026 budget. Thank you.
Ms. Farrell?
I agree wholeheartedly with what Councilmember Smith has said. Also, I want to point out that the city has cooked up a Flamingo Ditch fact sheet, and most of the facts I do definitely agree with. It's a helpful tool. However, on the one titled Ownership of Flamingo Ditch, we well know that it's on private land, and all this discussion ad nauseum about easements and ownership, etc. However, I'm not a lawyer. I did take business law. There's a difference between doing something for free and doing something for pay. If I take you somewhere in my car for free and I get in a wreck, you can probably sue me or anything else. But if I do so and charge you, that creates an entirely different responsibility. So here, we see on the sheet, the easement does not obligate, that is the temporary easement, does not obligate the city to maintain or improve the ditch with public funds. I solidly disagree with it, and I don't think that legally that would stand up, because you're not getting city services for free there. You are paying a water bill, and part of that water bill is a stormwater fee. And this is just true. So that stormwater fee obligates, to my mind, the city to do something, and the city has been remiss for years. It's high time that we do something, as Councilmember Smith said, through whatever fund is available. And I would even take it a little bit further, though, too. Part of the problem, once the ditch is fixed, is elevation. And Assistant City Manager Clinch well knows, he's a professional civil engineer, but you don't even have to have that qualification to understand that elevation does count. I myself am in a special flood hazard area. I'm in the danger zone, I know it, okay? So I'm going to protect myself by buying flood insurance. I would heavily advise everyone in that Flamingo Ditch area to do so as well, because even when the ditch is fixed, that will not save you from storm surge. But we need to take, the city needs to take ownership of the project and to assist our long-suffering residents. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I'm going to bother John to please come up one more time.
Mr. Kramer, if you'll come up.
So we've heard from residents quite a bit, naturally, about all the problems we had last year. And I know that things are being worked on. And it's my understanding that typically we wouldn't put this on here if we don't have a handle on what it is. Now, I'm not trying to lead the answer here, but can you explain to us why there is nothing related to Flamingo Ditch on this report?
Sure. The capital improvement plan is intended for capital projects that have a defined scope and budget. Staff did not place a Flamingo Ditch CIP project in this current plan because there's not a defined project or budget at this time. If a project is identified and approved by council at a later date, it can be added to the budget at this time. The budgeting is a city-controlled budget process. It's not like time-sensitive grants, so there shouldn't be a reason to be concerned that it's not included in the CIP at this time.
Thank you. And I think our residents in that part of our city are really looking for some reassurance, rightfully so. And I do not disagree with Mr. Smith or Ms. Farrell. I think that the sooner we can get something going there, the better. And what it may very well take, in talking to somebody just recently, is this issue of private property versus public property. It may take a matter of some legal wavering so that we can get this done, but I did want an explanation as to why there was nothing here. It's not that it's being dropped, it's not that it's not being looked at, it's being studied. The biggest problem that the city will have is trying to determine exactly what the right answer is. Because I think what's going to probably happen, you're going to come back with multiple possibilities on how to fix the problem. So it's not something you want to just do like that. But just to reassure everyone that it's high on everybody on this dais list. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Ms. Frank?
Yeah, I agree with my colleague, Mr. Bolt's sentiments that it is a priority, and while it's currently missing from the CIP, because it does not yet have a defined scope and budget, I do want to reassure the Golden Beach residents that it is still top of mind, from speaking for myself, as something that will require significant investment in order to move forward. I mean, I don't speak for my colleagues, but I don't believe we would have hired a consultant to further investigate the issue if we weren't committed to then fund some type of solution. to the issue that persists out there. So I know we've heard a lot today that everything needs to be budgeted 5 years in advance into 2030, but I think this is another unique example where as soon as a defined project and budget is presented and there is council approval, we as a council will then have the decision to fund it immediately should the resources exist at that time. So I appreciate my colleagues being flexible and nimble to projects that arise and funding them as quickly as possible.
Okay, it's me and then Mr. Smith after me. I'll just reference, we had an email last night, just kind of from staff clarifying this, and it was basically that, I mean, this is coming up on our council meeting this Tuesday, that they're looking at putting this into the LMS, which is the local mitigation strategy, and that will be on our April 8th meeting. I think we're doing everything we can do. We had a presentation from the engineer. They came and gave us a much clearer timeline to explain to us when we could get some solid answers. And I don't think you're going to find anybody on council who's not interested in trying to find solutions to the problem. And we definitely feel for the folks in Flamingo Ditch. And you know, I'm all for doing something. I don't know if I would say anything that could be $100 million, and it's just like the jetty. We don't have $100 million to spend, so I'm very curious to see what solutions come up, and I'm hoping that we do find a solution that will best mitigate the situation there for everyone. Mr. Smith?
Mayor, thank you for that comment. Thank you for that comment, Mayor. I sense a consensus here that we are reassuring that community that we are going to do everything feasible and that we're going to do it rapidly, as quickly as we can, to try to give them some peace of mind as a hurricane season approaches. I want to repeat something that's been said in the past, but not today, that we have this imminent grant opportunity. And it's critical that we engage our consultant in preparing and applying for grants that I expect, and that I'm told by the Regional Planning Council we should see before the end of June. And so I know they plan to come back in June, but we need them to have a heightened awareness of this opportunity, because they're saying this will be first come, first served money. And great effort was made to put in a notice of a possible project here. At our meeting with Coastal Protection Engineering, they indicated they'd be willing to help us with that grant. It wasn't currently part of their commission. And it was discussed with Mr. LaValle that it could do this in stages, that there's a way to get this ball rolling, and it will be, it should be the death of all of us if we don't make that happen, or the political death of all of us if we don't make that happen. And I just want to repeat that and urge the staff to give it, the highest possible priority. Thank you.
Mr. Engelke.
I think we've taken tremendous steps to address this situation. And from my perspective, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed. But there's a lot of things that are unknown. And we have to be very, very careful that we take the right steps and not just jump into anything on an arbitrary basis to, maybe win a vote. I would rather be up here saying we've done everything we can. We've dotted every I, we've crossed every T, kept the city safe along the lines of where our legal liabilities are, and then also we need to move forward. So provided we get the right studies back and the right legal opinions, I think we're obligated to move forward on it. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks.
Madam Clerk, you can reorder me and put Ms. Farrell first.
Well, I doubt that we're going off half-cocked. We're going to be getting 5 different options, or at least we requested that from coastal protection engineering, so that doesn't seem to be a problem. But one of the things I feel very slippy about is that I really don't have a good grasp of what our grant writer has been doing over the years and is doing currently, and what the scope of her work, and maybe it's not been defined widely enough. And now we're in a new situation with climate change in which we're adapting to a host of unforeseen things to keep ourselves resilient. And so if indeed the grant writer has not had such a great scope, perhaps that needs to be defined by council or by the administration or whatever, or maybe even a second grant writer, or whatever resources are needed, that our grant writer will be beating the bushes for all and everything. And I don't know that we've seen a need for that in the past, but I think we have a need for it now. Thank you.
And then, Madam Clerk, you can reorder Ms. Frank ahead of me. Ms. Frank?
Thank you. I had a question for the finance director related to the stormwater fund. It looks like we're projected to spend about $4.5 million over the next 5 years. So is it fair to say that the revenue generated from the stormwater fund is about $900,000 a year, if that's what we're projected to spend, or is it way higher than that and we're keeping significant in reserves for these bigger projects that could come up?
Generally, the stormwater fund, each year the fee is assessed based on the projects that'll be coming forward. So there's a calculation that's done, and it's based on the property and the impervious, maybe John can explain that better than me, of how the rate is calculated each year based on the projects that'll be coming up for that year. So sometimes you'll see the stormwater rate increases slightly and sometimes not, depending on the projects that are coming forward.
And project-wise, we budget for $1 million a year. So we rearrange projects to meet that $1 million goal.
I think that's very helpful context to know as we continue to hear from residents about some stormwater concerns, what historically has been the revenue that we have in our toolkit to work with to address those concerns. So thank you.
And then my question is either to the city manager or engineer, whomever wants to answer this, but I'm hearing conflicting stories out there that we have grants that we're eligible for, that we haven't applied for, that we could apply for, between our grant writer or the consultant that we've authorized to assist in that process. And to me, if we are eligible for funds and have something that we can apply for, then we should have some kind of a scope of a project that we could at least put it in a planning document. But I'm just curious, is there anything that we've identified that we're eligible for? Are we in the process of applying for something? I just want a clear understanding of where we are on the grant side of this, and if we have identified anything we qualify for.
I'll take a stab at fielding that first. We have applied for grants for Flamingo Ditch. The difficulty with not having a defined project at this point is a lot of these grants are time sensitive in nature. So what we have submitted for up to this point are sort of placeholder projects to improve drainage. And if we receive funding, that would be to develop the project and flesh it out. We are getting, well, back to the grant writer situation, grants are really written by the individual departments. We have a staff member that's in charge of grant compliance, but her position is not to write and apply for grants. So she identifies granting opportunities and sends them to different departments and staff, and we evaluate whether we believe we have a project that meets those requirements. We believe at this point our best grant funding option are federal hazard mitigation grant program funds. And in order to be eligible for those funds, the project needs to be listed on our LMS local mitigation strategy list. At next week's meeting, engineering has an agenda item asking council to place Flamingo Ditch on the LMS list so it'll be eligible for this federal funding.
And then the other part of my question is, so with all of that said, it sounds like we're looking for them. We just haven't necessarily found something that we're going to be able to define a scope yet. So the other question Mr. Smith had brought up, maintenance contracts, that kind of stuff, which don't typically fall under capital, but I was under the understanding that we're making sure that, especially for next hurricane season, that we have at least some emergency contracts in place. If we haven't had them already, that we will have those. I mean, am I correct that that still stands, that we have contracts on that kind of stuff?
You are correct. Those
Okay.
efforts are moving forward. So emergency contracts to open the outfall, we expect to be in place for this hurricane season. We're performing maintenance. Any project, capital project that CPE identifies to improve the flooding is likely to be a very large, expensive, time-consuming process, and permitting may take a lengthy period of time depending on what that solution is. So I don't expect them to come up with any low-hanging fruit capital project-wise that's going to improve. They do have recommendations for specific maintenance activities, and that we look at our procedures, which we have been doing, and that we have emergency contracts in place. So those efforts are continuing.
And when you say permitting, you're not talking about the city's building department, you're talking federal, state, those different organizations that can delay the process.
Correct.
Okay. All right, any other questions or specific issues with Stormwater Utility Fund 480? Mr. Smith?
I'd just like to thank our acting assistant, our acting engineer, I guess, for what you just did report, and that I was aware of, that you'll be bringing before us a request that we add the Flamingo Ditch project to the local mitigation strategy. That's exactly what I was hoping for, and I commend you for doing that. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
So this would be one of those projects that, so when we have the June budget workshop in June, we generally give you the book the beginning of June. So if we have the project, and we know the project prior to that, it'll be added in that book. If not, it would be added after that. So that's still where we can still add projects to. That's why this is still fluid, the CIP, so we can add projects any point in time to the budget. We adopt the budget, and even if the project's after we adopt the budget, that's when we come forward with a budget amendment then. So a project like that can be added at any point in time under council's direction to approve a budget amendment, if it doesn't get in the budget itself to start with.
And I will say, Mr. Smith, it was kind of at the last hour, but that's what I was referencing in the very beginning, is that we did receive an email from staff last night basically telling us about the local mitigation strategy, that this is on our April 8th meeting, and that there has been multiple questions coming in about the CIP process versus that. And it just gives some good information. So, I mean, you may even want to share that with your constituents as far as kind of the responses that staff has been giving to a lot of these questions that are coming in. I found the information very useful, and I've also shared that with a lot of my constituents so that they are aware of what the city staff is currently working on. Okay, that's all I've got. Ms. Senni, back to you. All right, Madam Clerk, do you have anybody signed up to speak?
Yes, we have 6 speakers today.
Okay, then we are now at the audience participation portion of the agenda. Speakers are not to address council members individually. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes disorderly may be barred from the meeting. This is an opportunity to provide the City Council with your comments. City Council will not respond to any questions or comments during this time per the City Code. A member of City staff will follow up with you if appropriate. Also, any documents shown during the audience participation portion of the agenda or part of the meeting must be given to the City Clerk. Our first speaker is?
Okay, I believe there are some people who don't want to speak, but I'm still going to call their names, and they can say pass if they don't wish to.
Okay.
The first signed up was Israel Salinas.
Okay.
We just want to say that we're very, very thankful for what we heard today.
Oh, you need to say...
Hold on. If you're going to speak, you got to sit down. You got to say your name for the record.
Okay,
and-
so you are Bayat Layman?
Bayat Layman. I'm the chair of the Flamingo Ditch Steering Committee. I just want to say that we are very, very thankful for what we heard today from you all. And so I don't need to speak. Israel, same thing. Loretta will not speak. Peggy will not speak as well. And so, again, thank you very much. Really appreciate what you did.
And if you need any of the information that we were talking about, get with staff on your way out, and they can give you the email that was sent last night.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have that already.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we
Again,
have...
thanks very much, Mayor.
All right, so we've got
Okay, so Israel Salinas, is that correct? Okay.
Okay.
So just to echo what Bayet said, my name's Israel Salinas, resident at 591 Flamingo Drive. And just to echo what Bayet said, we feel a little more relief that City Council is telling us this is a priority with each and every one of you. And so, so thank you for that. The other comment that I would like to make is that I think a lot of the stress and anxiety and maybe the bombardment of emails that you're receiving on the subject, one of the things that I think would be helpful is if City Council made a motion next week to have a town hall meeting on this subject. Not necessarily just about Outfall 5 and Flamingo Ditch, but we haven't had a town hall meeting on the subject. After the hurricanes last year, we had to cancel there was a meeting that was scheduled right after Hurricane Helene, but you had to cancel that due to Hurricane Milton, and there was no follow-up. So the communication is not getting out to the people who live in Golden Beach and on the island and these residences that were flooded. I'm not sure what sort of access they have to information, but maybe you could even consider tying it into the Hurricane Expo coming up if there's an opportunity to do it with that. It's coming up, I think, on May 30th. So it's a good opportunity for people to be aware of what they should be doing. We've been very familiar with those prevention strategies as homeowners that we need to take, but just to have a direct line of communication where people can ask questions and you can have the dialogue that you just had today that cleared up a lot of the mud that we don't know what's happening. Like, we had no idea that there was going to be a plan in place for this year to keep the ditch cleared, to make sure that you have a contract in place to keep that open 24/7, 365 days a year. That gives us a little bit more relief, knowing that John Kramer just said that they're working on it. We really want to see that for this year, at least to help us get through this hurricane season. So thank you for making that a priority.
All right, thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk, next speaker.
The next speaker is